we asked that question of you, what are your two greatest challenges for creating long-term sustainable growth? We ask every C-suite executive that comes on the podcast. We've done that about the last 100 episodes. And the number one challenge, this is going to come back to what you were just saying, was internal alignment. Over 70% of C-suite executives said their greatest challenge for creating long-term sustainable growth was internal alignment. Now, a lot of time, mostly what we try to do on internal alignment is we try to align at the top and we try to communicate it down throughout the teams. But you talked about incentives to help alignment. We are all products of our compensation. We are all products of how we are reviewed, how we get our raises, everything. How does internal alignment, how does that incentives play into internal alignment, change management? You're saying right now you're in one of the biggest upheavals in your industry. I imagine having to take that in, decide what does that mean for us, communicate that to the entire company so that we're doing something different as a result. I love when you started talking about these internal incentives. Like, how does that work into the practical? How does that work into communicating and actually teams acting together, but high-performing teams? Like, how critical is that piece?
Most companies do this relatively well at the company or top level in setting incentives. But instead of looking at this from a financial performance lens only, especially in times like this where no one can predict where the market is going, not in 2 years, but maybe even in 2 months. The starting point for any business that can survive, it has to start with creating customer value. If you create customer value, then you have the opportunity to capture it down the line. Now, what are the KPIs or what are the leading indicators of creating customer value? That means that customer satisfaction or recommendation scores or the Sean Ellis test or whichever ones you want to choose, they have to be at the very top of incentives that you're setting up. If you push your sales teams only to hit targets, if you push your customer success to only be incentivized based on upsell and cross-sell metrics, you will make a bit more money in the short term, but you will not start consistently making choices in the company that benefit long-term value creation and in that way, long-term competitive ability. And that's also then the way to start creating. We always look for the commonality, right? In how do you bring different teams? So product, technology, customer success, sales, marketing, finance, how do you bring these teams to the table in a way where they can find a North Stars together? Usually, by far, the best way to do that is to actually use the customer as a tool, like using the needs and understanding of servicing that customer in the best way, because they're paying our bills, they're keeping the lights on the company in the first place, right? So how do you take that and how do you use that as the storytelling device for, okay, this quarter, okay, this is how we're thinking about making product priorities. Okay, right now, okay, yeah, we can push on this cross-sell or retention opportunity, but actually right now we see this gap in how quickly we're answering to the needs of customer where there's critical issue, or how do we set targets for the tech teams on the downtime of an API? That becomes a metric that's equal as important as a dollar sign. And then you push that into your overall performance reviews, into your individual OKRs that you set up, how you incentivize the bonus payment structures and so on. It's about finding the balance between those different things and then adjusting over time.